you, Fari. Our next topic of debate is cultural integrity versus individual integrity. Transgender and transsexual individuals comprise a large portion of gender violence and gender discrimination statistics, yet their presence is hardly known to many. These persons are assigned one sex, and gender at birth which is not fit with their mental and physical perceptions results often in a phenomenon known as dysphoria, in which the mind does not view the body as representing itself. Trans individuals are frequently discriminated against on the grounds of moral, religious, and cultural norms, not to mention common discomforts with those who wantonly deviate from the gender expectations of our society. No matter your standpoint, there are many questions which arise from the trans issue which are not easily answered. Issues of public restrooms, living space, medical status, and workplace integration have baffled even the liberal institutions of universities across the country. Progress has been made on answering these questions inside academia's halls, but in society at large, there is very little which has been done. Tonight we are going to look at the sides of cultural arguments against transgender perspectives, as well as sides of individual justifying the movement in order to gain perspective on how we form our norms, our laws, and our common ethics. Cultural integrity relies on foundations implemented over several centuries, and in some cases millenniums, which generates resistance when society demands change. Pro-cultural integrity activists do not outright deplore the emergence of individual integrity, but stand strong with history as its reference that it always has been successful. I'd like you to help me thank our next two panelists, first being Max Hyman. Max, if you want to take a stand. Max Hyman is currently in his second semester here at Irvine Valley College and plans to enroll at UC Irvine come fall. Max is a business economics major intent on receiving both Juris Doctorate and Certified Public Accountant degrees. As a new member to the Model United Nations Club, Max has performed at the highest caliber and never is shy to voice his opinion. Last month at Riverside Community College, Max represented the small island nation of Cape Verde and was a key sponsor in leading support from the much larger nations of the United Kingdom, France, China, and the United States, resulting in the passing of his resolution. At the end of the month, Max will attend the National Model United Nations Conference in New York, where he will represent Iceland in the General Assembly Second Committee, providing an expert economic perspective for our team. Max Hyman. Our next panelist that will be debating with Max is Riley Potter. Riley Potter is a returning member of the Irvine Valley College MUN team and has claimed awards at all levels of competition. Focusing on the intersections between neuroscience, genomics, and political science, Riley's research explores the dynamics of supranational governments, and essays the possibility to open source societies. An avowed believer in the public system, Riley plans to transfer to a UC to pursue his undergraduate degree in political science and technology studies. Following his undergraduate aspirations, a misguided quest for a doctorate is destined to drain the few resources remaining to him, saddling the young man in an unsurmountable pile of debt. Riley is a cynic, a futurist, and a vagrant, and a mythanthropologist. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. And in at least a sense, he could be described as being delighted to be here this evening. So if you want to thank Riley. The debated issue tonight, and before I move on, I want to be clear, each of the two panelists have 2 sessions to be up here. The first session being 6 minutes each, the second being 4 minutes each, which are responses to the other. So our first topic, cultural integration versus individual integrity. Max Hyman, if you want to take it away.
Everybody. Just want to start off with 2 quick questions. Just raise your hand if you don't mind. How many of you would like to receive $1 just for doing nothing? It's okay, don't be shy. Put your hands down, please. How many of you would like to receive $1,000 for doing nothing? That's what I thought. Whether you know this or not, you've just proven my point. Tonight, my colleague and I are going to talk about cultural integrity versus individual integrity. I'm not here to determine which one is better, which one is worse. What I'm here to tell you is the facts. Cultural integrity is the summation, the adding up of all millions of individual integrities, and they culminate into cultural integrity. So if you think about this in terms of 3 letters, A, B, and C. A is the point where individual integrity is without cultural integrity. C is the point where individual integrity is after cultural integrity. B is the cultural integrity. In order to get to A to C, you need point B. Let's talk about transgender issues. If we go to the Middle East right now, transgender issues is not really talked about too much because it's more or less shunned upon. Whether this is right or wrong, I'm not here to talk about that. However, in the United States of America, more free market societies, there are issues of transgender, homosexuality, lesbianism, and that's important to understand because with cultural integrity, you need to understand that individual integrity must be taken account for. Now let's move on a little bit. I'm going to talk about Saudi Arabia right now in the Arab League. King Abdullah, king of Saudi Arabia, stated, since 2008, Saudi Arabia is the leading nation among all Arab League nations to implement women's rights for their individual integrities. In fact, by 2015, King Abdullah states that 20% of the workforce will be women, so all women will be allowed to vote in elected official campaigns. In fact, some women will actually be allowed to be elected. Because currently, right now in Saudi Arabia, there are Sharia laws that state that women aren't allowed to be without male supervision for certain hours of the day, punishable by jail time. Now let's move right now on to North Korea, the Democratic Republic of North Korea. I personally don't want to go there, however, we still need to talk about it. It's not a free market. The fact is, individual integrity is pretty much not even an issue because culture dictates over there that there's going to be a supreme leader. Now let's move on to an extremely free market. In fact, according to an index out of 100, 88.9 actually is a number for Japan. Japan is the freest market society in the world. Their culture is very straightforward. The individuals treat each other with respect, and pretty much it is the safest nation in the world. You can leave your bike there, and it'll be there tomorrow. Let's continue on our little journey. We're going to take a travel back in time to 1774, the Olive Branch Treaty. This is after the Second Continental Congress right now. Before we actually formed the United States of America, we were the 13 colonies. The Olive Branch Initiative was a treaty that we sent to King George VIII because we did not want taxation without representation, hence the phrase, no taxation without representation. 2 years later, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was co-authored by Thomas Jefferson, with the main emphasis being life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are all individual integrities based on the culmination that he wants society to improve. So by taking individual integrity at the source, he implemented those and he wanted cultural integrity to improve tenfold. Let's move on 13 years later. George Washington, 1789 is the first president of the United States. We have ratified our Constitution. There's a battle between anti-federalists and federalists, which created the Bill of Rights, its first 10 amendments. Since 1992, there have been 27 amendments passed, which takes 2/3 ratification of both houses, 3/4 ratification in order to pass it, the president not to veto it, and the Supreme Court to determine if it's constitutional or not. Moving on to the present day, let's make a real-world application. Obamacare. I'm not here to argue if it's right or wrong. We're making for an assumption for my purpose of argument that 50% of the nation wants it, 50% doesn't. So we're assuming 50% of our individual integrity wants it, 50% of our cultural integrity does not want it. It's very hard to quantify whether or not it's the right thing to do based on our own integrity. This is also pretty much what I believe because culture has been around for many years, in fact thousands of years. It dates back to the cavemen, the Roman Empire, the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, the turn of the 20th century into today, my life today. Humans and human nature dictates that we don't want to be told what to do, especially when something like a pillar investment or a pillar idea has been along for a long time, especially when there are no solutions passed to change it. So if there's anything I can leave you with today, it's the following. Culture integrity trumps individual integrity 6 out of 7 days a week. It takes a break on Sunday. This is simply by the Transitive Property Association. And I'm not going to go into the math behind that, but pretty much my point initially, I'm going to reiterate it, from A to B to C. We had individual integrity at A. It was improved because of B and moved to C. Thank you.